Welcome to Inside Plug, the podcast where independent creators and entrepreneurs connect and inspire. I'm your host, Devon Jones. Today on our show, we have an actor Zach Taylor Daniels. Zach, welcome to the show.
Hi, Devon. Thank you for helping me.
Glad to have you here, Zach. So like I tell all the guests, when it comes to actors, we love actors. What you do for the film is, beyond amazing, right? You bringing out these characters that was just on a piece of paper, and you brought these characters to life. And whether it's on the stage or on the screen, what you do is amazing. And just want to let you know, just like we let all the actors know that we love actors. All right, Zach. So let's jump into some of the before I got ahead of myself. I'm super excited to hear about your projects. Before we jump into the projects that you've worked on, let's talk about as an actor. When did you know that acting wanted to be a career that you wanted to pursue?
That's a great question. For myself, I think I kind of knew from a very young age, in terms of when I first started acting. Sorry, I'll start over.
All right.
Hopefully, we can edit around this. Um, I kind of acting first kind of came to me when I was very young. Like I'd say maybe 2 or 3. I um I often had difficulties with speaking, like kind of communicating and stuff like that. But one thing that kind of helped me being able to talk was getting lines from films. So like I used to watch the classic Disney movies, Toy Story being one of them, and I used to watch it on repeat and repeat on VHS. I think we almost wore out the tape. And the one of the lines I remember getting, and my family still quoted to me, is "You are a toy." And I think from that, I think coming from that, and that kind of got me started acting. As well, like my family kind of, I come from a line of circus performers and stuff, so I think whether it was that or just it's in the blood. It's yeah, it was always calling into me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love to hear that. All right. So Zach, so with that kind of like that spark that, okay, this is something that I know I want to do. When did you first have that experience? Was it like on a stage at a school, or did someone have you work on a project with them?
Yeah, so I think my first kind of taste with it would have been when I was 12. Um, yeah, when I was about 12, like my before that, like I would have done a few things for my family. They would have asked me to do little performances, say for family friends or different things like that. But yeah, I'd say my first proper taste of performing was like with a proper crowd was when I was about 12. We did a my class did a theater production, like a musical production of Joseph's Technicolor Dreamcoat, and I actually played the Pharaoh, which maybe by today's standards wouldn't have been as socially acceptable, being a very white guy playing playing an Egyptian pharaoh. Don't know how well that would work, but it was school production. It was fine. Um, and yeah, I had to do I had to channel an Elvis impression for that, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like I remember after doing that, other kids on the playground would have came up to me. It's like, "Oh my God, you were the pharaoh, man! You were so cool. You're this, you're that," and that was a real buzz from that. And yeah, it just I think that kind of started a few different things. Like from there, yeah, I would have kind of tried making people laugh. And even when I went to college, I went to study film and media and did, extra uh, acting classes here and there. And yeah, then yeah, just really wanted to take it from there, try and make a career out of it.
Awesome, awesome. I love that. And then you say you went into film school later on. How was that experience? How was your film classes and how was like, putting together a production?
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I have to say it was quite a bit of fun. I was a little bit disappointed here and there, just in the sense that although it was film and media, it was very much working behind the camera, and which I think I should have I should have done more research on that one. Um, but yeah, so like it was a lot of working with the camera, production, editing, sound design, all these different things. Which, while it's fun and it's very important to familiarize yourself with being on set, like whether you're in front of the camera or behind the camera. For me, it just wasn't enough. Like I wanted to be in front of the camera, but I wasn't really able to because my lecturers couldn't really, like, they weren't able to grade me on that aspect. So they needed to see me, direct or produce or anything like that. And I mainly worked with writing. That was a lot of like I've always loved writing weird stories. However, working and doing college projects in Ireland, especially, it's quite difficult to get money together for different projects. So unfortunately, a lot of mine were a little too ambitious, so they kind of just stayed as stories. Um, but yeah, like from there, I kind of worked outside of college to get different roles for acting, different short films here and there, and yeah, just working with different actors in classes and stuff.
That's awesome. I love that. I like the fact that you mentioned being that this was a film and media class, you knew that being that it was from behind the camera, something was like, okay, I like this, I get it, I understand where you're coming from and every pieces, but I need to be in front of the camera. That's where I'm supposed to be at. And once you know that, like as a filmmaker, as an actor, okay, you know where you're supposed to be at. So I love that you found that and you knew that within yourself. And even though you was taking the behind the camera classes, you still found in front of the camera opportunities. So speaking of that, you said you went out, you found some projects. Let's talk about some of the projects that you have worked on that we have here. So we have this project, it's called Joke Dealer. How was the
Yeah,
experience working on that one?
that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. I worked with two people in particular. They were Randall Plunkett. He was working as the he was the director of photography on it. Amy Burke was the director, and it was a very interesting project. It was about this comedian who had stage fright, so he could write jokes and supply them to comedians who could tell jokes but couldn't write jokes. And I had to play my character rather was an enforcer. He was like a bodyguard for the bad guy of the film, so the comedian. And it was a lot of fun. Like one thing when you're playing a character that doesn't have a lot of dialogue, some actors can kind of get a little bit selfish and can get a bit can be a bit stroppy about it, thinking, "Oh, well, I have no lines, I can't do anything." Well, it's kind of like when you have that mindset, it's very, very limiting, both to the performance and the project. Because if you have this attitude of like, well, why am I even here? Everyone else is going to ask the same question. Why are you here?
Mm,
But with a character like that, where there's not much dialogue, you can still bring a lot in terms of presence or
mhm.
small character things. I mean, I think of one character in particular, like that a lot of people would know, Boba Fett from Star Wars, had fuck all lines. Apologies for the for swearing,
Mhm.
but had no lines yet was so memorable. and I don't think I could compare myself to Boba Fett in in that case of being so memorable. But yeah, that's kind of what I was channeling with that kind of role.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And before we jump into the other projects that you have, for the audience that's listening, where can people find your profile? Like do you have an IMDb page? Do you have a social media outlet that you use?
Yeah, so I have an IMDb that is under Zach Taylor Daniels, and my Instagram is under Fiery Daniels. Um, those would be the main ones that I post from. I don't do Twitter or X or whatever, whatever you want to call it. Um, I yeah, I try to limit Facebook. Mainly just Instagram.
All right. Awesome. Everyone that's listening, check them out. Stay connected with Zach and keep following him and look forward to more of his projects. So let's jump back into the projects that we have here. So the next one we have here is we're Eli students. So how is this one? You were a teacher, I believe, at this time.
Yeah, still am actually. Yeah, so I teach English as a second language in Dublin. When I'm looking for roles or looking for work, I teach English just to pay the bills, and thankfully, it's a very fulfilling job, like creatively, which is I'm very grateful for sure. So I was approached by some of the students who were managing the digital marketing aspect, and they're following this trend, this meme of I think it started with Costco, like we're Costco guys, of course we do this. So my students were doing ELI, like, oh, we're ELI students, of course we do this, and of course we do that. And at so one of the students who approached me, she had asked me, "Oh, could we use you in one of the videos?" You know, to say that like we're ELI students, of course we have a crush on our teacher, and gesturing to me, so yeah, sure. Well, no, I couldn't say no to them. So yeah, it
Mhm.
was a fun little project.
Awesome, awesome. That's a great deal. All right, and then now we have this project called X Crooks. How was
Yeah,
that one?
X Crooks. So that was a music video that I did with Cosmo Palace Productions. That was directed by a man called Angel Kreuzer. I apologize if I've butchered your name, man. I'm very sorry. But I worked with him and this grunge band in Dublin called Ritual Effect. If anybody's into grunge out there, definitely check them out. Really cool guys, great music too. So that was a music video I did back in 2022, and I got to play this cult leader, and it was yeah, it was a lot of fun. Very very kind of spooky kind of vibes, like very benevolent, but also there's something up with this guy. Was Met a lot of great people on that set. Made some great friends, and there was one there's one part of it I'll never forget. We were out in this forest in Mullingar, just in the Midlands of Ireland, and I had to go out in this lake. I can't remember the name of the lake, but so I was out in this lake for this baptism scene, and around this was around springtime, and you could hear that swans were they were in mating season, and if anybody knows anything about swans, they're incredibly territorial. So as I had to be out my own for this, out in the water for this scene, every time between takes, I'm kind of looking over my shoulder to make sure there's no swans around. So it was a very very tense set, just for those particular scenes. But it was still a great time, I have to say.
Interesting. All right. So, Zach, I do have a question. So, with the projects that you've shared with us and the your experience earlier on, what would you say? Do you have like a certain genre or type of character you find yourself navigating to?
Yeah, I for myself as an actor, I would love to play any character that I find interesting. Um, Anything that catches my attention, really. But I find most often I get approached for villain roles. I think people see me and they kind of go, "That guy looks like an asshole," and I hope to prove them wrong. When they meet me, but for the sake of a role, I'll do what I can. I do enjoy those kind of roles though, in particular, because I think with a good villain, like if you're an actor and you're playing a villain and you can make the audience hate you, like really really hate you. You're doing your job right. But one thing I love when playing a villain is if you're able to make the villain seem a little bit sympathetic, just a little bit like, well, I can see where he's coming from, because I think like most villains don't think that they are the villain. Like they're the hero of their own story. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it's I enjoy playing those kind of characters in like any kind of character that's morally ambiguous, or a character where you can kind of see where they're coming from, even when it's a very questionable perspective.
Nice. I like that. All right, Zach, we're at that part of the show where I ask the guests this question. What is a book, a TV show, or a film that you recommend?
Well, that's great. It's a great question. Um, for books, I would say, um, mainly because I'm a huge nerd, the Game of Thrones series. It's a series I love wholeheartedly. Um, I think like speaking of morally questionable characters, I think George R. R. Martin does that perfectly. Characters who you should hate, you kind of end up going, well, maybe they're not so bad. From movie, I would say, God, I honestly very recently I saw the newest Superman, um, the James Gunn Superman. That one, I think that's one that I would recommend people go see, just because it's just so hopeful. Like in this day and age, I think we kind of need that. Like just people being nice,
Hmm.
just being decent to each other. Um, like yeah, just yeah, I say those two. So somewhere between moral ambiguity and being being nice to each other. It's quite
Awesome.
just a juxtaposition for sure. But
Yeah, both great choices. That's awesome. All right. Thanks for sharing those. And everyone that's listening, this has been our episode of Inside Plug. Remember, we're here every Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. We're all over the place. Find us, connect with us, stay up to date. And also, if you want to be a guest on our show, send us a message and let us know, and we'll be happy to hear your story and share it with our audience. All right, Zach, thank you for joining us today, and I'm looking forward to seeing your next projects. And I don't think we mentioned it, but do you have any upcoming projects?
yeah, I have I'm currently in the works with a project called The Giant of Glasnevin Cemetery. That is currently in the works. It's kind of like a sci-fi western sort of thing. And yeah, at the moment I'm kind of working on my own stuff, working on my own projects, mainly just refining certain scripts, and hopefully I'll be able to share something very, very soon.
All right, awesome. Everyone, you heard it here. That was a quick teaser. All right, everyone, remember, stay inspired and keep creating. Inside Plug, signing out.